The FMS Futura 64mm just came out, and man is this thing awesome. It's so great that Kieran and I both managed to wreck ours pushing our own limits with this jet. I'm confident that this is one of the best 64mm jets out there at the moment, and you're completely missing out if you don't pick up one of these inexpensive sport jets up for your own hangar. Let's make all of these 8 minutes count because I'm still waiting on parts from FMS to rebuild mine, and there's your first downside. FMS is taking a bit too long to stock replacement parts for their aircraft. It's 2023, guys. We've established that there's enough new pilots out there making mistakes and idiots like me trying to high alpha everything possible that new releases should have a stock of spare parts. Because even experienced pilots make mistakes and crash, and you shouldn't have to buy an entirely new aircraft in order to fly again. That's it. That is really the only downside, unless you're the kind of person who cares about retracts on a 64mm single motor jet. That just isn't happening on something like this. It's got enough wing loading as is. Adding more wing loading for the sake of wheel goes up, wheel goes down is pointless, especially when the jet is pretty damned fast with the added drag of the permanently fixed wheels. We didn't even bother trying to fly without them because of how good it is with them installed. They even have shock absorbing springs. It's such a simple thing to do, it kind of makes you wonder why none of the other 64mm jets ever came with shock absorbers to begin with. Let's talk flight characteristics. The correct center of gravity is easy to achieve. I flew SMC 2800 4-cell batteries just barely hanging off of the rear strap. Kieran flew the same battery, but centered between both straps for a more stable, nose-heavier center of gravity. Regardless of what CG you use, takeoff is so good. It just leaps off the ground with the recommended flap settings. The SMC batteries bring this power system to life and make it feel like it's got even more power than it really should for its class.
I like how it takes off. I like that it doesn't just leap into the air like a lot of the smaller jets. Like you can actually kind of just like lift off and then maintain a low rate of climb.
Landings are honestly stupidly easy if you're used to landing EDF jets. If you drop the flaps, it'll come in super slow. The jet is so stable that you can nearly peg the rudder and literally forward slip to a landing if you're daring enough. It won't flip over with too much rudder, unlike many other jets. Kieran covered his wingtips with packing tape, which protects them from wing skids. It will drop a wing if you stall it, so don't stall it. Flare right above the ground so a wing drop causes the wheel to touch instead of the wing. That's about all there is to it.
Oh dude, look at it. Full back elevator.
Locked.
And yes, it does high alpha, and yes, you can land it like that too. The jet might fight you if you don't have the battery hanging off of the rear strap. The 80mm Futura is like this too, but once it settles in, it's astounding to watch.
Plump. Ooh, that was cool.
Futura can perform most other standard maneuvers that you'd expect from a jet, like knife edge passes.
Knife edge. Dude, it's so simple. I'm barely holding the stick and it just does it.
Loops. Rolls, etc. It's an airplane and it does airplane stuff. I'm not going to try to tell you that it's the most amazing jet ever made, but it does blow my mind that a 64mm jet can fly this good. This topples the Rafale 64mm for me. While Rafale is better at high alpha, Futura is better at everything else. The wheels still sound like a dumpster rolling down 5 flights of stairs, but they don't sound as horrible because there's suspension on the struts. That makes a significant noise difference. It's the difference between sounding like an annoying kid's toy or something that flies really well.
Bruh, this thing is perfection.
One of the reasons it flies so well is that the motor was paired properly for the ducting in Futura. it produces the thrust necessary to perform. I don't really care about top speeds because I personally think that it's entirely pointless to find out how fast something is going on the ground while it flies in the air, but a lot of people do care. And for them, I'd have to wager a guess that it tops out around 110 miles an hour, probably averaging about 90 miles an hour total. That's pretty decent for a 64mm jet, and it produces the thrust necessary for the kind of flying that I want to do.
Hovering. That's cool.
A word of warning, you may wish to consider flying this nose heavier than Kieran did, so I'd suggest that you move the battery so that it's centered under the first strap if you can do so. He ran into some issues with accelerated stalls, and also wrecked his jet trying to recover from an inverted pass. This could be because he prefers lower expo and the jet has enough pitch authority that it doesn't hurt to run higher expo amounts and make it slightly nose heavier. I flew with 50% expo on mine on all surfaces and it flew great. But your airspeed may vary, so you'll want to find what works for you and find your preferred CG range. I don't think it's possible to fly it tail heavy unless you mod the tray to move the battery strap further back, or if you actually trust Velcro to hold up to aerodynamic forces, then I suppose you could move it even further back on the tray using Velcro. I'm suggesting that you run it a little nose heavier because I couldn't recover from a forced stall at low level, and Kieran ran into issues as well, as you saw. So be aware that if it does stall and it's too low, it may be unrecoverable. But it isn't an expensive jet, being sub $200. And if the fuselage and wings ever come back in stock, you can get them pretty cheap and repair the jet in short order. All mine needs is a new wing tube and a steering strut, and it'll be flying again. Kieran needs a new fuselage, but he can fly his, even if it's a little ugly for the moment. My personal score for this jet is 9.5 out of 10. It's priced really well at $190, and you can take $10 off using the code FMS2NR. For $180, you get suspension struts, nearly best-in-class power, plenty of battery space to make it as nose or tail heavy as you desire, and crisp, responsive control surfaces for amazing flying. The only reason I'm knocking half a point off is because of the lack of spare parts, which continues to be a persistent complaint in the RC community. For what it's worth, guys, I hear you, and I've told FMS about this, and I know that you're upset. RC flying isn't an exact science like full-scale flight, and even full-scale pilots aren't perfect. People do make mistakes, and having spare parts can be the difference between a plane that you could fly, crash, and repair, or a plane that stays permanently in your hangar because you're too afraid to enjoy it. FMS continues to demonstrate that 64mm jets can be incredibly fun and rewarding to fly, and I'm here for it. Let us know what you think in the comments, and hit us up on Discord. Big congrats to my man Speedfix, who won the Discord server banner contest for the month of September with this image of his E-flite T-28 coming into land. He gets a brand new TwoBros RC sticker of his choice. Join us on Discord and enter October's banner contest for a chance to win too. See you guys next time.